meadows ring. When I was born, joy burst free.
Welcome to the Voice of Autism Resource Hub. Today, we are excited to introduce a strategic framework for developing personalized digital twins to support children with autism through in silico modeling. The approach utilizes a structured library of age-based templates that simulate common neurodevelopmental profiles, allowing for rapid individualization when real-world data is integrated. By employing a 6-layer architecture, these digital models enable educators and parents to test interventions and predict outcomes in a safe, simulated environment before implementation. The initiative, part of the AI for Autism project, aims to standardize care while reducing the time and cost associated with traditional personalized therapy. Ultimately, the system provides a scalable roadmap for technological development, specialized training, and commercial deployment within the educational and clinical sectors.
The river no longer flows in reverse. Tears turn to stone, a path to traverse. Paving the road for my journey to Rome. Her love's the guide that will lead me home. I lie close, I feel her care. Her love's a whisper in the air. Through clouds of dreams, she sees my way. A sky of light where hope will stay. Paving the road for my journey to Rome.
Hey everyone, and welcome. Today, we're diving into something truly revolutionary. A new idea that uses some pretty sophisticated AI to build a personalized digital blueprint. They're calling it a digital twin for autistic children. And the goal here is huge, to completely rethink how we approach support.
And this really gets to the heart of it, doesn't it? Every autistic child's mind is one of a kind. They experience the world in their own unique way, which, makes finding the right support strategy a massive challenge. So the big question is, how do we figure out the best path forward without putting a child through a ton of stressful trial and error?
For so many families, and for educators and therapists too, this whole process can feel like trying to solve this incredibly complex and honestly high-stakes puzzle. You've got all these different support methods, all these potential pieces, but no real way of knowing which ones are actually going to fit for this one unique child.
And that right there is the core problem. The way we often do things now involves trying one therapy, seeing how it goes, then maybe trying another. And look, it's all well-intentioned, but it can be a really slow, emotionally draining process. And the toughest part is, it puts the burden of all that experimentation right on the child's shoulders.
Okay, but what if you could test out all those puzzle pieces before ever trying them in the real world? This is where the whole idea gets so exciting. The solution being proposed is something called an in silico, which really just means on a computer, personalized digital twin, or for short, a PDT.
And here's the really smart part, the strategy that makes this all possible. It's not about building a completely new simulation from the ground up for every single kid. That would take forever. The big idea is to start with a standard template, kind of like a blueprint, and then just swap out its generic engine with the real, specific data from an actual child.
So, this whole philosophy, it really boils down to 3 elegant steps. First, you templatize. You create a whole library of these standard digital models for different ages. Second, you simulate. You run tons of virtual scenarios on them. And then third, the personalized step. Once we have a real child's information, you can super quickly adapt the closest template to fit them perfectly. It's all about efficiency.
So what's actually inside one of these digital twins? What is it made of? Let's pop the hood, so to speak, and really break down the anatomy of what makes these simulations tick.
Turns out, every single PDT is built on this consistent 6-layer architecture. You can think of it as the fundamental anatomy, the DNA, if you will, of this digital child. So let's walk through each layer one by one.
So it all starts right here, with the identity layer.
This is just the basic stuff, a placeholder profile with age, language, that kind of thing. It's really just the digital clay that's about to be molded into a much more specific likeness.
Next up is the neurodevelopment layer, and this one is absolutely critical. This is the part that simulates the child's unique neurological wiring. We're talking about things like sensitivity to sounds or lights, what their typical attention span looks like, and even how fast they process information.
Then you've got layer 3, the skill matrix. This acts as a developmental baseline. It tracks all those key skills. You see some of them here, things like communication, cognitive abilities, motor skills. This layer becomes the yardstick that all future progress gets measured against.
The fourth layer is the behavior and risk layer. Now this is where it gets really powerful, because this is where the model can safely explore potential challenges. It can simulate the risk of a meltdown or sensory avoidance or what happens when a routine changes, all within the complete safety of a computer program.
Okay, this next layer is hugely important, the learning response model. This is what defines how the twin is most likely to learn. Do they respond best to pictures? Is it all about repetition? Or maybe they learn through movement? And crucially, it also simulates their sensory overload threshold, which is absolutely key to predicting which teaching methods are going to work versus which ones will just be overwhelmed.
And finally, we get to the intervention sandbox. This is where the magic happens, right? It's the virtual playground where you can test drive all these different therapeutic approaches. You can simulate things like ABA, which is highly structured, or floor time, which is more play-based, and you can see the likely outcomes without any real-world stress on the child. It's incredible.
Okay, so we've got our 6-layer template, but how does this generic model become a highly specific, personalized digital twin of an actual real-life child? Let's take a look at that process.
And you're not going to believe how fast this is. First, you just map the child to the template that's already the closest match. Then, and this is the key step, you replace the template's generic data with the child's real information. We're talking behavior logs, parent observations, actual assessment data. And finally, you just fine-tune a few specific parameters to really dial in the accuracy.
This slide illustrates that core replacement idea perfectly. See, on the left, you've got the generic template with all its simulated general data. And on the right, you can see that that core has been completely swapped out with the rich, specific, real-world data from an actual child.
So what's the bottom line here? Get this. A process that might have taken weeks to build from scratch is now crunched down to just a few hours. I mean, that is an absolute game changer when it comes to getting timely support.
All right, so this is where the rubber meets the road. This is the payoff. For this specific digital twin, a caregiver ran the simulations, and look what it predicted. High-intensity ABA, probably a high risk of overload. The play-based floor time approach might be too slow. But look here, a combination of a picture-based system and video modeling shows the potential for stable, solid progress. This lets them pick the most promising path right from the start, avoiding the stuff that's likely to fail or just cause a lot of stress.
But the implications of this tech, they go so much further than helping just one child at a time. The really crucial point here is scalability. When you can create a whole library of these digital twins, you unlock a completely new frontier in care, in research, and even in policymaking.
I mean, the potential here is just immense. Imagine building a national library of anonymized digital twins for researchers to study. Think about training teachers on these ultra-realistic simulations without ever involving real children. Policymakers could test out new support strategies in a virtual sandbox before rolling them out. And all of this work, it paves the way for even more advanced tools, like an AI that could help predict and maybe even prevent meltdowns.
And I really want to land on this point because it's maybe the most important one of all. This AI is not designed to replace that vital human connection between a child and their parents, their teachers, their therapists. Not at all. It's designed to empower those very people, to give them a predictive tool that deepens their understanding and helps them make their support that much more personal and effective.
And that leaves us with a really powerful question to think about. We focused today on autism support, but just imagine the broader implications. What becomes possible when we can apply this level of prediction and personalization to every unique learner out there, no matter what their needs are? The potential is just, well, it's truly immense.
Waves to the endless sea. Mother has nights silent and still, a heart full of worry, a void to fill. The river flows back tears in streams to quiet springs where sorrow dreams.